San Jose Earthquakes of Major League Soccer are for sale per an article in Sportico very recently. Speculation that this is to maybe fund a baseball stadium in Las Vegas. So RSL, for context, RSL recently sold for $600 million. Vancouver Whitecaps on the market. So what do we make of San Jose on the market?
Yeah, this is Sportico reporting, and Kurt Badenhausen is the writer, saying that Jon Fisher has hired an investment bank to sell his MLS club, according to multiple people familiar with the billionaire's plans. An official announcement is expected sometime today, so we may be out ahead of this a bit thanks to Sportico. Obviously, again, this is all tied up in the baseball team, that Fisher owns the Athletics. They have left Oakland. They don't want to play in the Coliseum anymore. They want to move to Vegas, but there's no stadium in Vegas that's appropriate for a Major League Baseball team. So they're playing in a minor league baseball venue in Sacramento. And as much as I adore Sacramento, again, born and raised for 2 months in Sacramento, California, I can't get behind.
Twinkle in your eye for Sacramento.
I can't get behind the idea of a Major League Baseball team playing in a minor league baseball venue. This is a joke. I mean, and this makes Jon Fisher a joke. And Quakes fans will say, yeah, of course, we've known this for a very long time. He doesn't really care about his MLS team. You know, they got PayPal Park built. That's something. It's still one of the smaller soccer-specific venues in MLS. I think 18,000 is the capacity. The claim to fame of PayPal Park, or whatever it was called originally, was something like it had the world's longest outdoor bar or some nonsense like that. I mean, if you're marketing that, you clearly have, you're clearly not talking about the soccer. They've improved, right? Because Bruce Arena came in. That's like the cheat code. That's like the Game Shark of Major League Soccer. Rob, do you remember Game Shark or Game Genie? You remember these, right?
And it's actually a little apt. Maybe you might get a couple errors or some weird glitch outs, but mostly good. And
it might not work perfectly. And you might also think, well, if I really put the work in, I could learn to play this game and beat it. But why not go get Bruce Arena and just cut a couple steps and warp to the 10th level and skip all those other things that you don't want to do. That may be what's going on here. So he made at least a smart decision in that regard, even if it's a very remedial decision. But
do you think he got Bruce Arena at a cut rate deal because of where Bruce was with his departure from New England?
He might have gotten him cheaper, yeah, for sure. And they haven't spent a ton of money on their players, right? They that's a thing too. Bruce is going to come in and say, I can win with some rejects. I can win with some guys that are not expensive. I can go get Tito Arango and bring him back to MLS and make it work or whatever. Or, obviously they have players that Joseph Martinez, right, that have been stars in MLS, but maybe are on the downside of their careers. He got a bunch of guys from New England, right? Guys he knows. This is what Bruce Arena does. But in terms of this sale, and remember, again, RSL went for $600 million, but that included an MLS Next Pro team that has its own stadium, an NWSL team that plays in that building, right, in terms of the Utah Royals. So there's a complex, right, some real estate, some things that go with it. When you're buying the Quakes, you're buying PayPal Park and you're buying the San Jose Earthquakes. Hard to imagine they go for $600 million. And in the story, Kurt Badenhausen says that they were ranked 20th in Sportico's MLS team valuations, but they were valued at $600 million. So maybe I'm wrong about that. They were valued at 600. We'll see if they go for that. I think this is a test of MLS values right now, because we've got the Vancouver Whitecaps are also on the market, Rob, and nobody knows how much they could go for. And nothing's happened yet. We've been doing this for the entire season so far. And how long will it take for Jon Fisher to sell the Quakes? And is this ultimately going to be better for the Quakes? If you're a Quakes fan, are you rooting for this deal to happen because you're tired of Jon Fisher and he hasn't taken this team to where they should be?
Yeah, this could be celebrated news. Obviously, I mean, this is where the stadium being built and being theirs is huge, because if they were like renting it or if it was some facility, we would be asking the question, like, are they going to stick around? Are they going to move? Are they going to be rebranded? Sure. But with that firm footprint of a stadium, it's more likely that they would stay and remain the Earthquakes.
I think it is probably wrong. Shout out to Andy, who is saying that they're in California, not Utah. That's an attraction. This is San Jose, adjacent to Silicon Valley, adjacent to San Francisco, much more attractive in terms of the pedigree of the location. Daniel's saying no one is paying that. I think you're probably wrong, Daniel. Now, this is just, again, I think you're probably wrong. And I said, I don't know if they can go for 600 because they don't have the assets that the Utah situation did. But again, You're in California, and there's still an appetite for people with a lot of money or the ability to raise a lot of money or a collection of people willing to raise a lot of money to be involved in pro sports. And there are only so many entry points into pro sports, particularly in the United States of America. And you can argue like, oh, it's probably better to go buy an English team in the third division and try to get them up. Yeah, you'll get more bang for your buck, bang for your pound, I guess, if you do that. But there are lots of people who don't want to engage in promotion or relegation or aren't in it for the soccer reasons, are just in it for the, hey, I want to be attached to something cool. And with the World Cup coming up next year in the United States of America, there's a very good chance there's a boom or at least a lift for the game, more attention on the game. People might be willing to pay this.
Interesting that there's that whole baseball tie-in and stadiums and whatnot. And we're going to talk more about that. We got some rendering radar later on in the show, and there's some tie-ins with baseball stadia there too. But interesting that this is going the other way here in California. For context, the two teams that are on the market, Vancouver, surprisingly to everyone, in first place. San Jose going from worst to mid-table with the hire of Bruce Arena. Do you think that the current status of the team, the playing team, does affect valuations at all?
Sure, on some level. I mean, if you're consistently good, and there's a sense that if you buy the team, you're going to stay, near the top. Yeah, of course it does. I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily a massive drain because, again, scarcity is the biggest selling point for MLS. It's why they can ask for $500 million for an expansion fee, even though they're bigger than any other top division league in the world. I think at this point, there's still this notion that there are only so many spots available. So I think it matters, but I don't think it's a deciding factor necessarily.
Also interesting, if any Major League Soccer owners are somewhat thinking about getting out of the game. Do you think that there might be a flood of owners that don't want to compete in the pro rel world in a couple of years, might, be hitting the eject button while that scarcity and the evaluations are at this point? Are we at the high point, I guess, is the easier question, considering what else is going on in the landscape?
That's interesting. The idea I certainly think a lot of people believe there's some sort of bubble around MLS valuations.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because what is this? I mean, these clubs don't bring in the revenue. Remember, we did the Sportico rankings. I think we brought them up and did a video about the Sportico rankings. And it was like, oh, look at all the MLS teams in the top 50 of Sportico's most valuable clubs in the world. And you would see like Inter Milan right next to LAFC, and the drop in revenue was dramatic. Like the difference in how much money they bring in was dramatic. So that feels bubblicious. That feels like something that can't sustain itself, because why are you paying that much money for something that doesn't bring in money? And again, I do think that there's an element to that, but I guess I don't know that I believe the bubble is ready to burst, in the sense that there aren't still people willing to pay these prices. And I also think that lots of people probably do believe, and certainly this is the league's sell job, that there is money to come, that revenue will grow, that you may not get to, you may not get to the level of a Manchester United anytime soon, but you'll be able to generate more revenue than you are now on the back of the 2026 World Cup and things like that. Now, some of this is wrapped up in the TV deal, and we don't have time to unpack that, Rob. But, I was just reading an article over at the New York Times, The Athletic, I think the other day. I didn't even get through it. I wish I had, because it was very on point about how expensive it is to be a sports fan in modern America. And, the writer who was talking through a prism of baseball and basketball, being a Bostonian, was also making the point that it doesn't matter. You're an MLS fan, you're a soccer fan, you're a baseball fan, a basketball fan, a football fan. You're having to spend $2,600 a year to get access to the games. Not that long after we would be able to turn on our televisions and either get over-the-air games or cable television games, and you're paying cable television. I mean, I don't think that staying behind the paywall is ideal for growing a league, but this is where we're at. So I don't know. What can MLS generate in terms of revenue? How does that help the valuations of its clubs?
We shall see. And I love the bubblicious call there that brought a smile to my face. MLS being bubblicious.